The Pittsburgh Penguins escaped with a point here from PNC Arena. I am Dan Kingerski on the National Hockey Now and the Pittsburgh Hockey Now YouTube channel. And I mean, they escaped with a point against Carolina. All of these games are one-goal games. The Penguins were particularly sloppy in a lot of phases and a lot of areas, especially in the first period on Saturday. They eventually lose 3-2 in overtime, but it was a rally, 2 goals in the third period just to get to overtime. You knew they were in trouble. The game started the first shift. Sebastian Aho gets a breakaway. A few seconds later, an uncontested one-timer. A few seconds later, a 2-on-1. In the first 80 seconds, the Penguins had given up 3 grade A scoring chances. Tristan Jarry, the Penguins goalie, I think he was the big story of Saturday night. He was brilliant. He was spectacular. Yes, Carolina scored a pair of goals in regulation, but the reality was it could have been 4, 5, 6, nothing in the first period. The Penguins were that bad. Carolina was that good. The chances were that good. And Jarry was as well. There's a lot to break down. I think we're going to try the 5-minute postgame and then get to your questions and answers. There was just something a little unique about Coach Mike Sullivan in the postgame. Sullivan, even after bad games, he's either maybe a little bit gruff or curt with a little edge. After good games, he'll give you sometimes 2-minute answers to a question. On Saturday, there was a certain deflated tone. Like, why in the world, for a divisional game, can't the Penguins get up for a first period? Why were they down 2-0 and they should have been down 6-0? Sullivan said the only facet of the game he was disappointed in were the number of odd man rushes. And by my unofficial count, I had 10. I counted 10 between, I think it was a couple of 3-on-2s that maybe were nullified deep in the zone by a player catching up, but still an odd man rush. Half a dozen 2-on-1s, couple of breakaways. And there was that. Also the power play. Officially 0 for 4. 2 shots on goal. I don't know how you reconcile that. Honest to goodness, that's 13 straight they have failed on. What was particularly, I think, depressing for the team on Saturday. You can tell my days have all just melded together. What was particularly, I think, frustrating or depressing for the Penguins on Saturday was the absolute lack of zone time, of chances, of momentum, of just even looking competent. Listen, even with a 5-on-3, 30 seconds worth, the Penguins couldn't enter the zone cleanly against Carolina. Jordan Staal is an animal against the Penguins. That's been the case for 10 or 12 years now. He saw Erik Karlsson coming and just swallowed him up. In response, I think Erik Karlsson was coasting. He was hesitant. He was tentative through center ice. And Staal just ate his lunch. I think that is the power play failure in a nutshell. Let me grab my book here, because there were a number of performances I want to break down. We did so. Listen, my report card, and I got it out pretty quickly tonight, was about 1,500 words. We go in depth on the Penguins' flat start, the Penguins' sloppy mistakes, especially at the top of the zone and giving away the puck on those odd man rushes. There's also a very interesting sort of thing that happens when the Penguins play Carolina. And I think they have, one more to go? 2 more? I'm never sure of this weird schedule where the divisional games aren't unified anymore. You might play 3, you might play 4. Carolina plays that very unique man-to-man defense almost on 200 feet of the ice. it seems to me that the Penguins, when they play Carolina, want to go toe-to-toe in that very same system. They want to play man-to-man. The Penguins don't peel off in the defensive zone. They kind of let Carolina dictate their own scheme, and the Penguins don't have enough defensively responsible players to really pull that off. I mean, let's be honest. So, in the report card, I know I'm going to upset a few people, but I hit, I got a little rough with Valtteri Puustinen and Radim Zohorna. Listen, Brian Rust, I did that piece last week, which was pretty well received, and I was quite happy about that. When I asked several guys about the trials and tribulations of being a young player and making it, sticking in the NHL, making that very important transition, not just getting to the big show, but sticking and how to figure it out. Because, look, it's not uncommon. In fact, it's more common for these young guys to go up and down a couple or a few times before all of the stars align, the gears start rolling together, and everything clicks. Brian Rust, I thought, said it very well. He's like, listen, you might only get 5 minutes. You might only get a couple of shifts, a couple of opportunities to show what you can do. You'd better be ready and you better go. Valtteri Puustinen, Radim Zohorna showed very well in that little 5-game segment when their adrenaline was up here. Since each guy has, very decidedly cascaded downward. Puustinen played 5 against Vancouver. He played only 6 minutes against Carolina. Radim Zohorna, I think, played 4 minutes. His first game since December 30th. He played just 4 minutes against Carolina and didn't do a whole lot in those 4 minutes. And the reality is they only played those minutes, not because Mike Sullivan hates young players. Y'all kind of drive me nuts with that dogmatic, knee-jerk response. But because when they were on the ice in the first period, their line whiffed on defensive assignments and Carolina scores a goal. When you're a young player who doesn't have great defensive bona fides to begin with, you don't get a lot of opportunities after that. You're going to sit and you're going to watch, and every head coach across the league, at least with the competitive teams, some teams are just rebuilding and they want the young players to go through that, and they're more willing to accept the loss. The Penguins are not in that position. The Penguins are not in that position to let young players suck. And that's what's kind of happening to some of these guys, and that's why they're on the bench. But I know I'm going to get at least half a dozen, Mike Sullivan hates young players. And I'm just going to bang my head on a brick wall silently somewhere else. Okay, so let's hit a couple of the just real quick checkmark report cards. Tristan Jarry was absolutely on fire, but I don't understand why. In overtime, he seems to struggle. A 36-foot wrister beat him on Saturday. And let's dive into the questions, because I think that's kind of segues right into it. Jason Scott says, the points are good. Special teams are a liability. The Crosby change in OT, what was he thinking? Well, Jason, Crosby is thinking his goalie's going to stop a 40-foot wrister. Crosby stayed on the ice too long against Vancouver, and it cost the Penguins. I think he was changing up. He was out of gas. Most situations, that's an easy save. Penguins have possession. Malkin's coming back, and things go along. I think because of the soft goal, Crosby's decision looks much worse than it really was. Erik Karlsson, I think his Penguins legacy is getting tied to this anemic, awful power play. He was playing so slowly with the man advantage, and you almost wanted to, just say go. At 5-on-5, the Penguins took Carolina's defenseman wide, at least when they were playing well in those spurts. They took the defenseman wide, got the puck low, set up the play from low to high. For whatever reason, on the power play, they just slowly drifted right into the teeth of Carolina's penalty kill. And Karlsson is too smart for that. I don't get it. Let's see here. Alex, 6-on-5 goals. That has to, at some point, translate into power play goals. Alex, and I touched on this against, I guess after Philadelphia, I touched on this. The Penguins' power play is actually really good when they have urgency. But they lack that urgency in most power play attempts. They have that urgency in the 6-on-5. If you want to know the common theme or the missing ingredient, there you go. It's that urgency. When the Penguins' power play is urgent, they're good. Too often, though, they get on their heels. They're just flat-footed looking for someone else to make the play, looking for that perfect play, and away you go. Let's see here. Magic says they lost ground. Is there anything else that matters? No, not really. I'm going to go along with that, Magic. Listen, I don't think the Penguins thought they played as poorly as I did. I was prepared to grade them an F even after they earned a point, but I upgraded them to a C-, because I just thought with such an opportunity, they could have closed to within 4 points of the second place team with one game in hand. And by and large, I thought they laid an egg. Sure, they stabilized the game for stretches, but they were never better than Carolina. And that was, listen, if you want to be a playoff team, if you want to succeed, you have to be better than your opponent sometimes. Or you have to, you definitely have to be better, right? Jim D says, clean house. And JW, can you tell, honest to God, I've never seen such an arsonist fan base. In 20 years of doing this, I have never seen a fan base with such arsonist mentality. You're not going to be happy until they blow it up, and then you're going to scream bloody murder. Why'd they blow it up? Why didn't they get enough? Why didn't they trade it 5 years ago? They should have done it 6 years ago. Some of y'all are just exasperating. It's called moving on and dealing with the current situation. JW. It's pretty simple to JW, who responded on Twitter. In overtime, the reason they're losing games, and they've lost 3 straight, is they are old. They play old and slow, and they get outskated. I'm going to quibble a little bit, JW. I'm going to say that for whatever reason, I don't think Tristan Jarry is very good in overtime. He allows goals in overtime that he would not allow in regulation. And that's kind of... I realize how messed up my hair is tonight. He allows goals in regulation. I don't think he would allow otherwise. And so goaltending is a thing. I mean, listen, they won shootouts in overtime games with Nedeljkovic in net. It really still is kind of a mental block with Jarry. Great goalie. I mean, look at how, Tristan Jarry saved their bacon Saturday. But a 36-foot wrister to Brett Pesce. And that will do it from Carolina. Listen, I am driving back on Sunday over the West Virginia mountains. I hope I'll talk to you again. But if you see my picture on the back of a milk carton, or they don't do that anymore, do they? But you get what I'm saying. I will be back on Sunday, and I'll have some extra content for you. I've got a little bit of a wild hair. Like I'm feeling the need, the desire to kind of throw some elbows, because as well as the Penguins have played lately, or they're as good as the results have been, it just seems like they still can't entirely get out of their own way. And a big game on Saturday, and to squat like they did. I still feel like this team is not fully formed. I still feel like they need a little bit of a heart transplant. They need a bit more heart, soul, grit, some blood and guts in their lineup. All right, that does it from PNC Arena. Like, subscribe. I'm not opposed to begging. Also, hey, I will give you this code. You've come this far. If you don't subscribe to PHN Plus, here's a half-price code. Get $20 off. Use the code REBOUND to get $20 off PHN Plus and keep this little engine that could humming along pretty well. All right, thanks a lot. Have fun.